Life comes at you fast, people. This is not a question of me reveling in the misery of others. I do not do that. Even I remember when Osama bin Laden got killed and people were celebrating. I was like, even if you don't celebrate death, you can celebrate justice. You can take a sigh of relief that something has ended. But even celebrating in the death of even your enemy, I think is a bad juju to put out there. And so this is not that, full stop. Do you remember the story of this viral influencer who was a migrant, also known as an illegal alien, who had made his way to America and was making videos on how to screw homeowners out of money? And he was flashing bills while he was doing it. And then at some point he got arrested. This is from September 16, 2024. September 16, 2024, September, October, November. 2 months before the political tide turned. New York Post, migrant influencer Leonel Moreno, who encouraged migrants to be squatters, is ordered deported. But here's why he likely won't be kicked out of the country. Fast forward 6 months, migrant influencer who urged other illegals to squat in U.S. homes, deported to Venezuela. From the New York Post as well. I am not reveling in the fact that this illegal alien, who was breaking the law and boasting about it, got deported. If only because it seems that he has a child who he's undoubtedly using as both a shield and a sword in this battle. And this kid is going, if it is his kid is going to be the innocent victim of the criminality, stupidity, and recklessness of his father. This is from Nick Sorto. It's Nick Sorto. We all know he's a good friend of the channel and the community. The illegal immigrant influencer who went viral for teaching followers how to burglarize American homes has now been deported to Venezuela. Good. Should have been done years ago. He's now barred from coming back for life. And I want to show you just some of the videos if you haven't seen them.
Estoy en peligro de muerte en United States.
Hold on, I'll read it. I'll read it for you. It says, I think this is, I am in danger of death in the U.S. I need protection.
Necesito protección.
I am being persecuted in the United States.
Mi gente,
I have thought about it. Invading a house in the United States. I found out that there is a law that says that if a house is not inhabited, we can seize it. Guys, here in the United States also applies the of, I don't know what this is, land of invasion, and I think that will be my next business invading. Abandoned houses, since I have looked for some codes with my friends, Africans, and they told me that they have... You get the idea? My people, as an American citizen, which is not, I can get a gun, and well, I've been looking.
Y bueno, he estado pendiente de comprarme
to buy an AR-15 or a Glock. Look,
Capichi. Miren
at the prices, daddy, of this beauty.
$1,000,
$1,000,
$700,
$700, $600, $800,
$800 y $500.
Boys, I remind you that in the United States,
les recuerdo que en Estados Unidos tienes que andar armado por tu seguridad. Como les seguía diciendo, solamente nosotros los ciudadanos americanos podemos portar armas en Estados Unidos.
Well, I guess he wasn't that much of a citizen. So that is the individual. I'm sure many of you knew this. Well, the latest news of the day is he's gone. Deported to Venezuela. Let's take a brief pause from this vlog for a word from our sponsor, 1775 Coffee. People, what if your morning cup of coffee didn't just taste delicious and wake you up? What if it actually made you younger? It sounds like BS. Well, 1775 went ahead and made something called Rejuvenate. And no, it's not some scam cooked up in a lab by a bunch of hacks trying to sell you snake oil. It's got something called CAAKG, clinically proven to fight aging at the cellular level. You're still getting the same freedom-fueled 1775 coffee you love, single origin, small batch, and ethically sourced from the kinds of farms that you know hate big government as much as you do. But now it boosts energy, fires up your metabolism, and can crank back your biological clock a number of years in just a matter of months. And yes, according to 1775, this is backed by studies. They are not just making this stuff up. 1775 Rejuvenate officially launches on April 15th, but you can lock in your pre-order now. And bear in mind that every dollar you spend at 1775 Coffee gets you entered in the raffle to win that beautiful Tesla Cybertruck and $30,000 cash. Head over to 1775coffee.com/Viva. The promo code Viva gets you 15% off. So start drinking tastier coffee, getting younger today, and having a chance to win that beautiful Tesla Cybertruck. Thank you to our sponsor, 1775. And now back to the vlog. Migrant influencer Leonel Moreno, who urged other illegals to squat in U.S. homes deported to Venezuela. The brazen migrant influencer who infamously flashed around wads of U.S. cash handouts and encouraged other illegal border crossers to squat in American homes has finally been deported back to Venezuela after causing uproar on the flight back. He encouraged other illegal migrants to invade abandoned houses, was sent back to the narco state this week after President Trump resumed deportation flights to the country. You think ACLU is going to come to the rescue for this guy? Or do they only do that for alleged gang members? Venezuela's Minister of Interior, Justice and Peace, Diosdado Cabello, said Moreno was welcome back. However, the freeloading migrant caused disruption on the flight and upset his fellow passengers. You don't say. Oh, the firebrand TikToker had to be placed in his own section of the plane with extra security to calm tensions. It's unclear why Moreno caused the disruptions or what he was doing. After he stepped off the deportation flight, he flashed the thumbs up and received a pat on the shoulder from a security official escorting him off the plane. Migrant crossed the border illegally in April 2022 and was quickly released into the U.S. The Venezuelan border crosser, however, failed to appear for his required check-ins with immigration ICE, leading to the feds to arrest him in Ohio 2024. An immigration judge ordered Moreno's deportation last October, but Venezuela refused to accept any deportation flights at that time. Can you believe this? A country saying, yeah, he's illegal, he's in your country, you've ordered him to deport, we don't want him back. Once President Trump returned to the White House and commenced a mass deportation campaign, Venezuela began allowing the flights to land again. He caused outrage, and we all know this stuff here. So here's the question, because it's going to, segue naturally into the next question of another student who had her visa revoked and apparently is in detention and about to be deported. Is there anybody on earth who would say that is only speech, and an illegal alien who's here without color of rights, set aside the fact that he was not attending his required court hearings, this is freedom of speech issue. Someone who's here illegally has all of the same freedom of speech rights as a natural-born citizen or as a naturalized citizen? I don't think many people would argue that. Some might, and say unless he was actually breaking the law, he's allowed to go online and claim to be breaking the law, and you can't deport him even though he's an illegal alien, because presumably he said the magic word asylum as he got here, and therefore he's lawfully allowed to be here, according to the idiot sycophant Democrats who think all you have to do is say the word that you were told to say on your way up here as you were being funded by NGOs who want to facilitate the invasion of your country. Fine. I don't think many people would say that. I think there is hard evidence that this guy broke the law. But even if there weren't, and it's not going to be, he didn't do it, but even if he did, yada, yada, even if there is not hard evidence that he actually broke the law and was unlawfully squatting in people's homes, properties, what he did online, I think, is sufficient, set aside the fact that he was already illegal to begin with. The other story of the day that's making the rounds is a student who's being deported, allegedly on the grounds of pure speech issues. Although there's some facts that are in dispute with this. Marco Rubio explained, and people are taking issue with Marco Rubio's explanation, saying it's factually incorrect. We'll get to the name of the student. Turkish student at Tufts University on a student visa, apparently was taken into custody by ICE, masked men, allegedly for the following reasons. And we'll let Marco Rubio eloquently explain. People who are given visas are given literal privileges, and not in the white privilege sense, in the actual privilege sense, as in the country is letting you come in under certain very specific terms and conditions, predicated on certain behavior, and it is a privilege by definition. You know what the definition of privilege is? Let's stop this here. Do you know what the definition of privilege is? Some people say, I had the privilege of being born in a house with two parents. That's not a privilege. That's good fortune. That's good luck. You don't control your destiny, but a privilege is something that is only reserved for a select group of people. A special right, advantage, or immunity granted or available only to a particular person or group. I once got into a bit of an argument on Twitter, and it wasn't worth pursuing. It was a while back where someone said, I had the privilege of being born into a family with two parents. Like, that's not a privilege, because that's not reserved exclusively for any particular group or people. It's good fortune, because whatever your race, creed, religion, or whatever, 50% of people, give or take, end up in a broken home. It's not a privilege, it's good fortune. A privilege is a visa. A privilege is my visa. I come into a country and expect that I'm going to raise shit even if I don't break the law. You might be flirting with disaster, but breaking the law, you are absolutely flirting with disaster. When I go fishing and, there's the alligator underneath, George, people like feed the alligator. Like, you can't feed the alligator. That's a felony. And I'm on my visa. Have you ever flown your drone over here? You can't fly your drone in a Federal Reserve. That's a federal violation. A visa is a privilege by definition of the most quintessential type. You're given a visa, you don't have all of the God-given rights of a natural-born citizen or a naturalized citizen. So with that said, Marco Rubio's explanation as to what happened, and we'll talk about it.
Mr. Secretary, a Turkish student in Boston was detained and handcuffed on the street by plainclothes agents. A year ago, she wrote an opinion piece about the Gaza war. Could you help us understand what the specific action she took led to her visa being revoked? Yeah, and what was your State Department's role in that process?
We revoked her visa. It's an F1 visa, I believe. We revoked it, and here's why. And I'll say it again. I said it everywhere. Let me be abundantly clear, okay? If you go apply for a visa right now, anywhere in the world, let me just send this message out. If you apply for a visa to enter the United States and be a student, and you tell us that the reason why you're coming to the United States is not just because you want to write op-eds, but because you want to participate in movements that are involved in doing things like vandalizing universities, harassing students, taking over buildings, creating a ruckus, we're not going to give you a visa.
I'm going to pause it there for 1 second, because you are going to have a lot of people saying, she didn't do any of it. Marco Rubio's lying. She didn't partake in vandalism. She didn't partake in occupations, whatever. First of all, I don't know the facts of this case any more than I knew the facts of Mahmoud Khalil's case. I happen to, after having done extensive summoning for crowdsourcing, I happen to have determined that there was, I believe, even if you believe in free speech for visa holders, one of the videos was sufficient to warrant the action that was taken. I'll get to that in a second just to substantiate what I'm saying. People are going to say, she didn't partake in that. He's lying right now. You have to listen to what he said, because I only picked up on it the second time around.
Say it again. I said it everywhere. Let me be abundantly clear, okay?
F1 visa is a student visa, by the way. Just bear that in mind. He doesn't say that she partook in vandalism or occupation. He said she supported a movement that.
If you go apply for a visa right now, anywhere in the world, let me just send this message out. If you apply for a visa to enter the United States and be a student, and you tell us that the reason why you're coming to the United States is not just because you want to write op-eds, but because you want to participate in movements that are involved in doing things like vandalizing universities, harassing.
Participate in movements that are responsible for doing such things like vandalizing. Doesn't mean she does them. It means she's participating in a movement that does do it, which is also sort of the argument for Mahmoud Khalil. But I'll shut my big mouth and let it play out. But words matter. Facts matter even more. The question is, what did she do and what did she not do? I have my skepticism, my cynicism that all she did was write an op-ed in 2024. I'm somewhat cynical that would be the only thing that put her on anybody's radar. You can take Marco Rubio at his word, or you can call him a liar, but you can't misrepresent what he's saying. He didn't say she did it. She partook in movements that did it. So it might not have been her, but it might have been others within the movement that she was participating in supporting.
Students taking over buildings, creating a ruckus. We're not going to give you a visa. If you lie to us and get a visa and then enter the United States, and with that visa participate in that sort of activity, we're going to take away your visa. And once you've lost your visa, you're no longer legally in the United States, and we have a right, like every country in the world has a right, to remove you from our country. So it's just that simple. I think it's crazy. I think it's stupid for any country in the world to welcome people into their country that are going to go to your universities as visitors. They're visitors. And say, I'm going to your universities to start a riot. I'm going to your universities to take over a library and harass people. I don't care what movement you're involved in. Why would any country in the world allow people to come and disrupt? Now, we gave you a visa to come and study and get a degree, not to become a social activist that tears up our university campuses.
It's a very interesting thing. Like, you may not like it. We're going to get to the F1 visa. You may not like what he's saying, but you can't blame him for saying it, and you can't say that he's wrong for saying it. You want to go study at a university. And you imagine that people come to McGill to study in Canada. On the one hand, arguably not necessarily taking a seat for a Canadian, because I think there's many more foreigners who have more money to attend these universities than Canadians, unless you're from within the province. Not necessarily taking a Canadian space, but you're being given the privilege to go study at beautiful, reputable universities. What did you say on the application? Yeah, I want to go there to be activists? No, I didn't say it, but it goes without saying. That's what university is about. Yeah, maybe if you're an American citizen, they won't deport you, but the university might kick you out. When you're on a visa, it's a privilege.
And if we've given you a visa and then you decide to do that, we're going to take it away. I encourage every country to do that, by the way, because I think it's crazy to invite students into your country that are coming onto your campus and destabilizing it. We're just not going to have it. So we'll revoke your visa, and once your visa is revoked, you're illegally in the country and you have to leave. Every country in the world has a right to decide who comes in as a visitor and who doesn't. If you invite me into your home because you say, I want to come to your house for dinner, and I go to your house and I start putting mud on your couch and spray painting your kitchen, I bet you're going to kick me out. But we're going to do the same thing if you come into the United States as a visitor and create a ruckus for us. We don't want it. We don't want it in our country. Go back and do it in your country. But you're not going to do it in our country.
I mean, I know that people watching on my channel are probably going to say, damn right, when did Marco become alpha male, for anybody who believes that stupid terminology? I'm very, very sensitive to this because I appreciate the argument. You can say whatever you want so long as it supports us or we agree with it. And the second you say something that we disagree with, well, then we deport you or revoke your visa. We're not quite there yet. So the question is going to be, one, as a matter of fact, what did this student actually engage in? And the other one's going to be a matter of law. As unfair and mean as it is, they're laying down the law of their own country as relates to the privilege of being gifted a visa. And for everybody who's out there saying visa holders have all the rights of natural-born, naturalized citizens, it's simply false, because these visas do demand sometimes compelled behavior that is not able to be demanded of natural-born citizens, even if it doesn't involve breaking the law. I have my doubts that it was an op-ed only, and I couldn't find sufficient information just yet to come to a hard position on the application of Marco Rubio's principle in law as relates to this privilege vis-a-vis this particular student, so I'll wait for that. But as a generalized principle, I don't think Marco Rubio is wrong. And this is what's being reported from the Washington Compost, and if this is as favorable as it's going to get for the student. Tufts student from Turkey detained by masked officers, video shows. The widely circulated video of Turkish doctoral student Rümeysa Öztürk's arrest in the Boston area has sent shockwaves through the academic university. Here we go. As Tufts students, Rümeysa Öztürk made her way to an interfaith center to break the Ramadan fast Tuesday. Can you start it more as a sympathy piece? But it doesn't matter. Plainclothes officers, some masked, descended on her. She was screamed as an unmasked officer in a hooded sweatshirt grabbed her, security visits shows. Within about a minute, they whisked her away in handcuffs. The widely circulated video of the immigration enforcement officer, who Öztürk's lawyers said were from the Department of Homeland Security, sent shockwaves to the university. 30-year-old from Turkey is a Fulbright scholar working on a PhD in child study and human development on an F1 visa, her lawyer, Masa Kanbabi, said in an email. We should all be horrified by the way the DHS spirited away Rümeysa in broad daylight, she wrote. District judge, considering a petition from her lawyer, ordered officers not to remove her from Massachusetts without advance notice. Apparently she was already in Louisiana. So that's out of jurisdiction now for habeas corpus, from what I understand. According to a court filing, ICE had already transferred Öztürk out of the state when the federal judge ordered she be kept in Massachusetts. DHS and ICE investigations found Öztürk engaged in activities in support of Hamas, DHS said in an emailed statement, without sharing evidence for the claim or responding to questions about the video. It added that supporting terrorists is grounds for visa termination. Joshua Else, senior vice president of Tufts, said Thursday the school learned about her visa was terminated. The university had no knowledge of this incident in advance, did not share any information with federal authorities prior to the event. They got to make sure they cover their butt. We do it every day. Okay, we got the statement. Trump promised to deport pro-terroristic, anti-Semitic, anti-American campus protests over Israel's war in Gaza. Annie Lai, a law professor at the University of California at Irvine who specializes in immigration rights, said some of the officers in the video do not have anything on their clothing, a badge or writing on the vest that identifies them as law enforcement or government officials. At one point in the video, an officer says, "We are the police." The fact that they did not say they were from DHS or ICE is concerning, Lai said, adding that they didn't seem to say in the video why she was being taken into custody. Most of the officers have their faces covered. During the arrest, this gives people the sense that they can be taken without knowing who is taking them and why. That should be deeply alarming. I agree. Turkish embassy said it was working with the U.S. authorities to ensure that Öztürk's rights were protected and that it was updating her family. Tufts president Sunil Kumar and fellow campus leaders said the school was offering support to its community, including immigration resources to its international students and faculty. We recognize how frightening and distressing the situation is for her, her loved ones, and the larger community here at Tufts, especially our international students, staff, and faculty who may be feeling vulnerable or unsettled by these events. Separately, the American Association of University Professors Middle East Studies sued the Trump administration this week over what they called ideological deportation policy. The complaint alleges that its policies, quote, fail to give non-citizen students and faculty fair warnings as to what speech and association the government believes to be grounds for arrest, detention, and deportation. I think they've been sufficiently clear. The only question is whether or not you believe it's a double standard. You can support Israel, and there won't be any risk of you being deported. Although I suspect if you started harassing, spray painting, vandalizing, occupying in support of Israel, you would get deported if you were here on a student visa. But I don't think it's lack of clarity. They just say supporting Hamas and supporting terrorism. What does that mean? I guess you could not feign ignorance or play coy, but you could say, well, what does that mean? If I support the Palestinians, is that supporting Hamas? One thing that's relatively clear, after having done my best to ascertain what evidence was and was not out there, as relates to Mahmoud Khalil, this was from our stream. I finally found the one video where I said, okay, fine. Maybe it's harsh, but play stupid games, win stupid prizes. When I saw this video, I'm like, okay, that answers it. This sounds not like this man was merely a spokesperson negotiator, but an active participant in. Listen to this.
They're the worst. This guy's a Darwin Award winner.
This is a video you can't deny that it's him, and there's no argument that maybe it's not him. Okay, this is what he said.
Gathered thousands of students here. They actually gathered thousands. Here. They're not treating this as an anti-war movement, an anti-war movement that actually gathered thousands of students here. That
Hold on,
actually
just wait for it, people.
Thousands of students across the United States.
Okay,
how far are you all willing to go here on campus?
We're going to go as far as we need to pressure the university to pressure the university to divest from the occupation. This is up to the group, to the leadership of the group, to decide how far they will go. But now it's clear that the students will remain here. They will stay here until they achieve their demands.
Okay, so that is
wins a free one-way ticket.
Yeah, that might be enough when that privilege is being revoked to say, I'm sorry, did you just say we are going to disrupt the campus as much as we need to until our demands are met? All right. Sorry, did you mention that those were your intentions when you came over? Oh, well, there wasn't a war when I first came over. I don't know if there was or wasn't. Did you mention that you reserved the right as a student visa to go and interrupt and support whether or not they are supporting Hamas versus the Palestinian people? There is a distinction. I just think most people don't. I think most people are actually either deliberately or inadvertently opting for the former and not the latter, because I think if you support the Palestinian people, you have to vocally oppose Hamas, but that's just me. If a pro-Israel student did the shit that we saw occupied, like we saw in Montreal, I don't care that it would be pro-Israel and therefore pro whatever the American agenda is. I would expect that visa to get revoked and that person to get kicked out. It's a privilege of the highest order that you have to acknowledge and be grateful for and say, yes, thank you for this opportunity to live among the free, and I will do everything I can in my power to support that very freedom. And I appreciate that some people say telling someone to go fuck themselves is supporting the First Amendment and the Constitution. Supporting terrorist organizations or organizations that support or condone violence, you might be able to get away with it if you're a natural-born citizen who wants to support BLM. But sorry, with privileges come obligations. Holy crab apples. We got a new open source farmer is a member of the vivabarneslaw.locals.com community. Welcome, good sir. Open source farming sounds like an actual very good, not business venture, but philosophy.